Welcome to our channel on omnichannel, our session on omnichannel commerce. My name is Melissa Dixon. I am Director of Brand and Content at BigCommerce, which is a leading e-commerce platform known for its open SaaS philosophy. And with me, I have Michael Challenger, the CEO of HOUZER, and Karen Lee, who is Senior Vice President of Sales and Partnerships at Feedonomics. All right. So you are phenomenal experts. They're going to talk all about the state of omnichannel commerce, tools and technologies to help optimize your strategy. But before we delve into that, Sharon and Michael, why don't you give us sort of just a brief overview of your role in your business?
Yeah, so I'm Michael Challenger. I'm the CEO at HOUZER Sinks. We are a kitchen and bathroom product company. We're Israeli owned. The business is well over 20 years old, but was traded recently in about 5 years past, bought by an Israeli company. When I came in a year and a half ago as CEO, we had no real digital stack to speak of. We had no direct consumer whatsoever. It was a legacy business with a lot of legacy people and a lot of legacy ways of doing things. Of course, the first thing that I set out to do when I started the business was architecting our digital strategy and our digital stack, which led me to meeting Sharon, which I think I'll get to that a little later. But as the CEO, but a CEO who comes from an e-commerce background, I spend probably a lot more time than a typical CEO does with a hands-on approach to how we go about things from a digital and omnichannel commerce standpoint. I'm trying to get away from that because it's not necessarily sustainable, but as of now, I'm still very much fingers in the pie in that sense.
My name is Sharon D, and I'm the President of Sales and Partnerships at Feedonomics. Feedonomics was acquired by BigCommerce a couple of years ago, and we're the leading enterprise feed management solution. So we take data from any system of record, we transform it and enhance it to make sure it, when you send it to channels like Google and Amazon and TikTok, it will perform for you. And so worked really closely. I've been on the agency side, on the technology third-party partner side, and then on the platform side, and putting together omnichannel solutions for and in partnership with folks like Michael for a long time.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited to dig into all of this. Sharon, why don't you help set the stage for the audience and tell us a little bit about the current omnichannel landscape? What are the expectations that shoppers have right now? How is that impacting brands and retailers?
Yeah, I think more than ever, shoppers, which we all are, want what we want, where we want it, when we want it, and how we want it. And that sounds super simple, but if I am experiencing a brand or a retailer, if I am in store, I want to be able to have that product right away. And if it's not in my size or in stock, I want to be able to get it sent to me very seamlessly. If I am scrolling through social and I see my favorite influencer or content creator showing me something that they love, I want to be able to buy it in 2 clicks with my already saved wallet. And I want to be able to get it next day or same day. Those expectations are, we need to be able to deliver this shopper expectation because the technology makes it possible these days. We've all gotten used to Amazon Prime delivery. We've all gotten used to awesome loyalty programs with direct-to-consumer experiences that really help us understand and have affinity for a brand that helps us, align with our lifestyle and values and products that we want to buy. So that challenge of making sure that we can deliver that experience is something that obviously we work with merchants to be able to deliver because it gets complicated.
Yeah, and I think that one of the biggest misconceptions when we're talking about omnichannel selling is really that brands have to be ubiquitous, that they have to be selling everywhere, that have on every trend, but really it's about testing and learning and selecting the channels that are right for your business and for your customers. So how does a company's maturity of their business profile, how does all of that impact where and how they should be selling?
Yeah, Michael and I have actually talked a lot about this, which is, not all brands are the same. Some of them were digitally native. They started and they were single channel, and it was a very small SKU catalog with a amazing influencer lifetime, story with tons of brand loyalty. Other retailers have tons of history and a huge footprint in terms of stores and extreme strength and breadth in terms of their vendor and supplier relationships and an extensive catalog. And so, in this, everyone loves a good maturity model. And on this model of like single channel to multi-channel where you're taking, you have maybe a core channel, whether it's wholesale or whether that channel is direct to consumer, digitally native, and then you're expanding because eventually you want to grow. You want more traffic, or you want to be able to get your product on additional channels that you haven't contemplated. And so as you add those channels, it's a non-linear city problem, right? You're from multiple places. Maybe you're holding inventory on an East Coast and a West Coast, and then you need to add a 3PL in Europe. And then you're contemplating marrying kind of your third-party marketplace inventory that sits in Amazon FBA with your TikTok shop strategy and campaign. So it gets complex as you add more channels or more languages or more brands or more regions. So when you get into this kind of global omnichannel space where you might have a direct-to-consumer business, you need to launch a wholesale site. You sell some of your catalog on marketplaces, and another set of your SKUs might be a really good fit for an influencer strategy on social commerce with something like TikTok Shop or Instagram Checkout. It gets pretty complicated, and so when we look at different brands, we need to understand where are they in their growth journey and what's a good fit for them based on where they are. If you're just getting connected to the channels, making sure that you've got solutions that kind of harmonize that quickly so that you can get speed to market, so that you can actually get live and then iterate on each of those channel strategies you talked about is your priority. Whereas if you're already spending millions of dollars on 37,000 SKUs on Google because you're a historical brand who has a ton of brand loyalty, and you're distributed everywhere already because you're a kind of a heritage consumer electronics manufacturer, tiny tweaks to your product data is what you're focused on because you want tiny incremental changes to make the AI that is delivering you the results on Google work for you. So it totally depends on where you're at in your strategy as you define what the most important thing is for you in the coming year.
Well, let's talk about where HOUZER fits in that model. Michael, I know Sharon mentioned speed to market, which I know was crucial for you as well. Tell us a little bit about some of your challenges and what you're trying to achieve with your omnichannel strategy at HOUZER.
Yeah, and actually, I think even before I get into the speed to market piece, going back to the three tiers that you had there, if you're a brand who's in one of those first couple of quadrants, I think it's important to think really, really creatively about where you have ambitions to be as a business in a 2 or 3 or 5 year time span. Because if you see yourself reaching that third tier as a company that has a truly global omnichannel business, then you need to make sure that you're making the right investments in your technology stack to support that. Because there are a lot of businesses that during 2020 went, oh no, we haven't made any investment in digital, so let's try to rush and catch up and get something launched, maybe a D2C site or something like that. But because it was slapdash, it's not really ready to scale to that next tier from 1 to 2 to 3 as they become progressively complex, which leads to being stuck in contracts. And then you have this kind of mishmash tech stack where things don't work well together, but you can't necessarily replace all of the pieces. We were unique in that we were coming into this with no tech stack at all. So we had basically a tabula rasa that allowed us to go in. And I had the very nice opportunity to call all of my friends in this industry and say, imagine that you could literally just take a piece of paper and draw your stack out. What would you put in there, right? What would you use for a CMS? What would you use in terms of your e-commerce platform? What would you use to syndicate data and things like that? I actually met Sharon about a month before I ended this first time CEO job. This is circa a year and a half ago now. I was speaking at a CMO conference in California, and she came up to me after I presented, and she said, hey, I'm Sharon from Feedonomics BigCommerce, and I really liked your speech. Talk to me about your D2C plans. I said, oh, we're going to put Shopify. And she said, well, hear me out. And that led to me actually sticking BigCommerce into our RFP, and they ended up winning. And not only did they win, but we also put in Feedonomics as well. And part of that conversation was I said, look, I really need speed to market here. I want to have strong wins in my first couple quarters as a CEO. And with Shopify in the past, I was able to get things launched in just a few months' time. Do you think you can beat that? And she said, yeah, I think we probably can. I think we ended up at about 4 weeks to go live.
Yeah.
Which was quite impressive. So within the first quarter as CEO, we were able to launch a D2C site where we had never had one before, and go to market with that. And obviously progressed since then. We've had quite a few very early adoptions. For example, we were the first merchants live with Buy with Prime. We've explored TikTok Shop, all through partnerships that were refereed by the relationships that we've been able to piggyback off of that BigCommerce and Feedonomics has made with their various partners within the technology world.
Awesome. You guys have such a great success story. And I think, we talk a lot about testing and learning,
So I'm curious, going back to the point about doing what's right for your business and iterating, how are you currently optimizing your strategy over time to drive results?
So we're sort of at a new junction, right? We've got our essential site stood up. We've launched most of the platforms that we need. I'm actually thinking a little bit about optimizing results, but mostly I'm thinking about expansion. So you could, if you go back to the 3 tiers, you could imagine that we've exited that first one where we just have a single source, and we're into the second one where we're trying to move toward the third. So we're thinking a lot right now about launching B2B. One of the reasons that BigCommerce won in the RFP was the strong B2B capabilities that we have. I didn't really give a proper introduction myself, but most of my background has been in retail and brand e-commerce. So I was at Build.com, part of the first $3 million in growth, all the way up to $1 billion in sales. Our success there all came from B2B. If you're selling a home improvement product, your lifetime value for your customer, for a consumer, is pretty dismal because they have a 10-year purchase cycle. So you have to invest in the pro. And we're obviously in that kitchen and bath space, so we know we need to nurture that pro customer. So our next big phase of optimization is getting that B2B site launched. We're also working to launch a site for our luxury showroom brand, which is called Hama USA. That'll be a D2C site, which will then also have the B2B backend component to it. On the existing HOUZER side for the D2C site that we've already got, most of the optimization is now coming around investing in greater first-party data, greater investment with things like Amazon Buy with Prime. We've now got all the payment methods that we need launched. So now we're really getting into kind of the traffic acquisition and funnel optimization side of things, which is your classic, as Sharon said. We're moving toward the world where you're not getting the basic building blocks in, you're actually thinking about more micro optimizations. And the further you get down that optimization funnel, the more minute things get. Right? We were joking and laughing about how in the biggest companies, you have people who spend all of their year thinking about solving one tiny little thing in one piece of one channel, because that's the level of optimization that a business at that scale can afford. We're obviously not there yet. We're still a small up-and-coming business, but we're able now to move from fully macro into some of those more micro optimizations as we now work to acquire traffic, convert that traffic, and really start to nurture our investment in that first-party data that you get from your D2C site.
Well, and in all that work, I'm sure you have some great learnings. You've already kind of spoken to some, but what do you feel like if you could distill it down to your greatest learning of 2023 that is going to drive your business forward in 2024 and beyond, what would you say that is?
I'm going to give you 2 answers because I'm an overachiever. The first of them is not necessarily apropos of BigCommerce, Feedonomics, or the tech world in general. It's really more of a learning as a first-time CEO who comes from a very non-traditional CEO background. The greatest learning for me this last year was to invest in people. If I have one regret in this year, it's not going out and aggressively hiring really sharp people soon. Tying that back to you guys, one of the things I think that's the most impressive about the Feedonomics and BigCommerce world is the quality of the people that they've got. People drive businesses, and it's easy to say that and give lip service to that. But this last year, with the new people that we brought in and the development of these people that were in the business, we've seen that is what has driven the greatest wins. We've made some smart investments in technology. We've had some good successes and some good wins that have driven incremental sales and a really profitable year. But at the end of the day, all of that came back to people. We tried to rely heavily on a more agency-focused model, and that actually got us exactly what I was hoping it would give us, which is speed to market and speed of execution. Because there's a low ramp-up rate, there's no risk of retention churn, whatever, in terms of your humans. But at the end of the day, the people have really driven a lot of success there. So that's one. And the other is probably a more on-brand, NRF answer. And that is the importance, going back to your 3 tiers again, of making a really considered investment in what is likely to be the most important part of your business, which is your digital stack, to service your omnichannel business. Because the reality is all brands are ultimately omnichannel brands, whether you want them to be or not. And so I don't think that necessarily really any brand can get by just staying in that first sphere. And if you think that you can, then you probably won't exist in a few years' time. So you better start thinking about moving to that second tier or even that third tier. Because if you aren't, your competitors are. And so I think that being really deliberate with tech investments that you make is crucial. Making sure you partner with the right companies, not just for where you are now, but where you want to be, looking forward and starting with the end in mind, and making sure that you nurture and invest in the relationships that you have with the folks at those companies that you're selecting. Because if you make a bad choice, it can be very hard to unwind that in the future if you now aren't able to achieve the goals that you have in terms of your growth as a business. And so again, I think that making the right investments there, being really decisive about that. So many companies during 2020 and onward basically just went, oh no, we've made a terrible mistake. We didn't listen to our director of e-commerce or our chief digital officer, whoever has been saying, hey, could I have some budget to maybe invest in some of these things? I think maybe there's going to be some growth in the percentage of consumers that are buying, or at least influenced in their purchasing by the digital world. Maybe you could give me a little bit of extra money that we're spending on brick and mortar or things like that. And they were told no until 2020, at which point it was a sudden scramble to get some degree of digital commerce. You don't want to end up making that scramble invisible.
Well, I love both of the astute observations. I think that the partners and culture cannot be, emphasized enough. And it starts at the top and trickles down, and that's what fuels customer centricity. So I love that answer. So we've heard all about HOUZER's use case. Sharon, on a broader scale, what systems and best practices do you think are critical for this unified and harmonious omnichannel approach?
Well, I think Michael came to us with some really interesting challenges, right? If you're a brand who says, I just want to do D2C with social, there are probably simpler solutions out there. But a B2B manufacturer who says, I understand the importance of first-party data. I need a direct-to-consumer strategy. I'm going to have a new experience that's a really seamless experience for my wholesale buyers as well. I understand how a component of my strategy can live in social commerce with influencers around, home improvement in that category. I know how a certain cohort of my SKUs can live within Amazon for, next day delivery. You're not going to deliver sinks next day, but you might do faucets and things that are pretty easy to ship where your margin and profitability would work. I think having that mental model around, I need to be agile to understand where my shoppers are and then deliver them an experience where they have a good experience with me no matter where I am. That is what drives the solution architecture you need, right? And how fast you can do that. And so I think what was cool about, I think talking to each other in December and having a site live by February with agency fully designed, like all of the integrations and then going omnichannel, I think is like such a coup and a testament to the partnership required to make that happen.
For a third of the cost of what we spent previously in the company I was running before that to do the same thing on shelf.
I'll say it again for the people in the back, right? Absolutely. So low total cost of ownership, agility, best of breed, best of need. Those solutions where, there was a full tech stack. I remember when we were building, we were saying, okay, e-com platform, you need your solution, you need your agency who knows how to put it all together. So partner first partners who know how to help enable and, jump in and solve problems, in partnership with their agencies, making sure that you have the integrations from your systems of record to your channels of growth is super important, right? If you're not sending that quality channel optimized data to Google, you're not going to get good traffic when you turn that site on. If you're not optimizing the data and the integration between Amazon, you're not going to be able to do clever things like, take a TikTok shop order and route it to a different, Amazon multi-channel fulfillment as an example. If you're not identifying your, what your loyalty campaign process is or what your payment solutions are that are going to make sure that you're getting optimized rates, payment, tax, fraud, email, SMS, all of those solutions need to work in harmony together. So choosing a partner that gives you both the agility and non-lock-in that is, essentially an open approach can support that. So, I think the approach that BigCommerce and Feedonomics have taken there, Feedonomics works with all the platforms, customers on any platform of any size, because we eat complexity for breakfast, and that, you might be on a custom solution or a different e-commerce platform. And so I think making sure that you can understand which e-commerce platform, as you get more complex, you might need a PIM, you might need a custom order management, or maybe you're writing those rules in the ERP that you have. Maybe your ERP's super category specific and a little bit old and doesn't have all the APIs you need. You need solutions that can integrate and work with those tools in their current format. So I think making sure you understand what you have and then choosing solution partners that can get you up that maturity model from where you are now and doesn't just say, sorry, nuke the whole thing, but rather puts together a more, in my experience on the agency side, you got to put together an approach that doesn't turn off the business as usual while unlocking the fast wins and the quick wins on the growth channels.
And since you mentioned Amazon MCF before we move on to the question, just to go back to something you said, we are actually delivering syncs next day. Because of Amazon Buy with Prime, because of our adoption of that program, we've moved a lot of our inventory into Amazon MCF to allow us to fulfill the orders from our D2C site and also have review parity where our Amazon reviews come over to our own D2C site on the BigCommerce side. But that's allowed us to have a 100-pound kitchen sink get delivered to you next day, because we've realized we've listened to our customers that if your plumber screws up and they break the sink that you've got and you have this one window to get your whole kitchen sorted out before Thanksgiving, you do probably need a sink next day. And again, Amazon's allowed us, BigCommerce and Feedonomics allowed us to actually deliver that customer experience. And that has value as well, because we can leverage that same Amazon FBA inventory through the multi-channel fulfillment network to deliver against our Seller Central accounts as well. So we are hybrid, we have 1P and 3P, and our 3P business uses that same multi-channel fulfillment inventory that Amazon is storing to service our Amazon business and to service our D2C business, which also gives us a great degree of, let's say, safety stock between the two businesses, which then prevents stock outs on Amazon, which then prevents lost flywheel erosion, et cetera, which makes us more money. So I did want to call that out.
Yeah.
We are shipping syncs next day.
See, like the ability to challenge that model where it's like you think maybe that it wouldn't have worked, and then say, well, let's do the math. Let's understand the profitability profile of the SKUs by channel. And that's a big thing I think that we've seen, is making sure that the solution architecture you have allows you real-time enough data, you can make decisions around profitability on advertising spend. So I've heard it described as POAS instead of ROAS, right? Like where you actually have channel-specific profitability data so that you can make decisions, because those things are changing really quickly with the launches of new programs that we're seeing all of our largest tech partners invested, from Amazon to Google, especially with all the new exciting AI technology that's coming out. Being in a position to both leverage your first-party data while also feed fruits and vegetables to the AI that actually gives you the conversion you're looking for on those growth channels, I think is, when looking at solutions architecture, understanding which tools are needed to get from this stage to this stage to this stage, and then making sure that they're flexible enough where you don't get locked into them in a way where if you grow out of it, you're not locked in for too long, so that you can keep agility in your strategy.
Let's talk about AI a little more and some of these other predominant trends. I mean, AI has certainly been the theme of NRF this year. I've seen it so many places. Sharon, whether you want to talk about AI or some of the other trends, what do you think these big opportunities are for brands and retailers in 2024 from your perspective?
Yeah, I think, we're blue in the face hearing about AI. And I think one of the interesting thing is the use cases are like endless, right? And so what we're really doing is trying to narrow as fast as possible on the things that can actually deliver the value. So Feedonomics has been invested in the AI space for a long time, right? We can auto-categorize data according to a Google schema extremely efficiently. And, building new capabilities where you can you can prompt OpenAI and then join the results of that into a catalog data. Let's say you have 4 million SKUs and 40% of it is, those SKUs come from suppliers. That data can come in pretty messy, and you need to clean it up before you can ever contemplate putting it on your own site. So like people who are launching marketplaces, for example, this is a data challenge they have all the time. We have solutions around that. The ability to take that data and then enhance it with AI to be able to decrease the speed to market so that it can be optimized for destination channels as well is obvious. So clean it up before it gets to your systems so that your systems perform better and all the technology that's using that data can perform better. But then also before you send it out and syndicate it to distributors, if you're a B2B wholesaler or normal channels that you'd expect like Google. The new evolutions that we're seeing in trends like needing event-based architecture to support real-time inventory and pricing so that you can take advantage of things like Google local inventory ads, Google regional availability and pricing, and this category we call instant commerce, which is the Amazon Todays, the same-day delivery solutions. That's a data challenge, which is how can I get real-time inventory data from my stores or my distribution centers to the channels where, if you do a product drop on TikTok, boom, you might run out of that inventory really quick. You're at risk of overselling unless you have solutions that can surface that inventory in real enough time to be able to make sure that that offer stays fresh. So I think those are some of the areas, which is how are we going to, how can AI and instant commerce, get fed the right data it needs so that the people who are investing in feeding the AI that can deliver them the results does so faster than their competition. That's the biggest area that I've seen.
Yeah, lots of opportunity there. And Michael, I'd love to know, what are you most excited about for 2024? And what areas are you investing in for HOUZER?
So before I answer that, I want to go back and rip on something that Sharon said, because I'm itching to talk about AI. Although I'm blue in the face too, I'm still not tired of it. Most of what we're seeing is brands and retailers all asking each other, have you seen somebody actually do anything actionable with AI yet? Right? You'll see people posting on LinkedIn and things like that of, oh, well, I fed all of my Amazon product reviews into ChatGPT and it spit out, some value props and things like that. But there isn't necessarily a strong enterprise use case yet. We're very close to generative AI really starting to make a difference to the commerce side of brands. And companies like Feedonomics are beginning to integrate that, as Sharon has said. But I think what's most important for brands and retailers to think about when it comes, especially brands, to AI, is that if you aren't investing in your D2C strategy, then you are robbing your company of your future ability to take advantage of AI as the technology begins to progress and as we start to see use cases roll out and solutions roll out that affect commerce. And what I mean by that is your AI will only be as good as the model that is developed for your business, which needs to be trained on first-party data. If you don't have a D2C business, you have no first-party data. Functional. You can go and get it from a few other places, but at the end of the day, the biggest thing, the biggest value that you're getting out of your D2C business is not the absurdly profitable sales. It's not necessarily the lifetime relationship with those customers. It's actually the first-party data, which then contributes to all of those things. And so as a brand, if you don't have a D2C business, you're already kind of a dinosaur if you didn't learn anything from 2020, 2021 and on. But I really think that if you are concerned about AI, the first question you should ask within your business is, why don't we have a D2C site? Because we're not investing in the first-party data, which means we're not going to be set up for success. We won't have, millions and millions of messages back and forth between our customer service reps and our customers. We won't have access to all of the searches that our customers are telling us how they like to shop. We won't have access to data on where our customers are necessarily. If you're abstracting all of your customer data between you and intermediary retailers like an Amazon or a Walmart or folks like that, then you're essentially going into battle blind, and you're also going in unequipped as these solutions start to roll out. So it's been important to have a D2C business, but I actually think this levels it up to the point where you are actively harming your business for, let's say, the next year of success, which, as you asked the question, I'll tie that back in. What's most exciting for 2024 for me is beginning to see the promise. There's a reason AI has been the only thing people are talking about since January of last year. It's because generative AI has the potential to change the commerce industry more than anything that has ever happened in the entire world. It will transform every industry. It will transform almost every job. And we're really at a historic cusp. And so this will be the year that I believe that you'll start to see these companies. And I have a lot of friends who have quit their jobs to go and found AI companies who I've seen the product that they're building. It is incredible. And we will start to see those things begin to hit the market. And that's going to be really freaking cool. It's also a little scary, right? I think that there's a lot of people who don't realize just how in jeopardy their jobs may be if they don't learn to throw reins around the neck of generative AI and harness it and use it as a tool to help them get more done. And so I think that, again, if you're in the audience and, you can't talk your company into having a D2C business, at least start investing in understanding how AI works and how you can utilize it as a tool.
Exactly. It's the notion of AI will take your job, but the person AI will take your job. So
100%.
Right. Well, we are just about at time. Thank you so much for your insights and your actionable advice. If anyone has questions for Michael or for Sharon or myself from BigCommerce or Feedonomics, we are at booth 5575. So stop by and say hi. And thank you so much for listening.